Alright, in this video I'm going to show you exactly how to use the Life Values Alignment Grid in session, but more importantly, how to integrate it into your existing niche and program. Because the grid isn't meant to replace what you do, it strengthens it. So whether you're a health coach, a career coach, a relationship counsellor, for example, the grid becomes a helpful tool that sits beneath your expertise. So the first thing we need to know is where the grid fits in your program. And it fits beautifully in early sessions to identify patterns or mid-program where progress might stall for your clients. Other options are transition points in your client's journey, or when a client says something like, I don't know why I keep doing this. They might be stuck. So for example, for a health coach, a client might keep messing up their meal plans, and for a career coach, it might be that a client keeps complaining about their toxic workplace, but they don't do anything about it. An executive coach, for example, they might have a client who is stuck micromanaging and is burning out. And for a relationship counsellor, maybe one partner keeps shutting down as soon as conflict or tension rises. The topic and the person can differ, but the patterns can be seen and located on the quadrants of the grid. So let's now have a look at locating these clients on the grid and get started at looking at the drift. And this is all within your niche. So when pressure hits in your niche, what happens? Let's find out. Let's look at the health coach example. You might have a client who says, I was doing well and then I just stopped tracking. So we might be able to locate them in the deflector quadrant, or maybe chameleon, if they're overcommitted to please you in session, that kind of thing. So now the conversation shifts from why did you fail to where did you drift, and that protects motivation. For an executive coach, they might have a leader say, my team just isn't performing, but underneath they're correcting everything, over-functioning or holding resentment. So we can locate them on the enforcer quadrant. Now, instead of teaching another management framework, you can address rigidity and values misalignment. For the career coach example, you might have a client that says, I deserve better, this company is terrible. So we might be able to locate them as a rigid idealist with strong values but low ownership. So the grid lets you say what action would center require, and that turns complaint into movement. So let's now have a look at naming the behaviours, and we can tie this back to your area of expertise. So here's the important part. You don't just have to name behaviours generally, you can translate them into your niche language. So let's look at the enforcer quadrant in leadership. So this is words like micromanaging, control, impatience, low delegation, that kind of thing. For fitness, it might be overtraining, discipline, burnout cycles, that kind of thing. Chameleon in relationships, that can be emotionally draining, easily triggered, power and control dynamics, or unmet needs, maybe even blurred boundaries. And in corporate settings for chameleon, that can be people-pleasing, no clear voice, and perhaps resentment is building as well. So what you're doing, you're showing them that there's behavioural patterns and it's using a language that they understand, that's relatable to them. So let's now look at the cost involved of not making a change. What's the cost of staying in this quadrant and not returning to a centre of balance? So for a health coach, the cost is no progress. Maybe there's weight gain, then there's shame, and they feel like giving up and quitting your program. And in the executive coach example, it might be that you've got a disengaged team, there's staff turnover, unhappy customers and exhaustion. And for a relationship coach, it's an emotional distance that continues in the couple. Arguments continue and there's no change in behaviour. And for a career coach, it might be that your client is stuck in the same job for another 3 years. So when that cost is linked to that client's goal, motivation strengthens. So now, here's where the grid becomes really powerful. The centre is not generic. It supports your client's desired outcome and what they need. So for now, let's start with some actions and goals the clients can define and take so that they have something concrete that they can gravitate towards. So for the health client example, their centre of health might look like more balance, more consistency, but with some flexibility. Might be about self-care and perhaps a power combo to support a mindset shift. For the executive example, executive coach, their client's centre might look like calm authority, more delegation, more strategic thinking, and being less reactive, and perhaps more trust in the team, that kind of thing. And for our relationship coach and their clients, it might be about more open communication, more time for listening, and being a bit more vulnerable and mindful, actively working to repair after conflict rather than avoidance. And for our career example, those clients there might be about taking steps to get that new job, might be reaching out on their network or looking for some training to improve their confidence in interviews, that kind of thing. So as you'll discover, the centre usually reinforces your program's promise, the transformation that your clients want. So you're not stepping outside your niche, you're deepening it and making it happen. So let's now look at the centre again through a values lens, and this is where you can really differentiate. This is where your work really hits home. You can ask your clients, what values will help you return to centre? And this is where you can integrate all the values work throughout the method. So for example, as a health coach, together with your client, you might identify the values like vitality, fun, strength, tolerance, and energy. They might be what your client needs. As an executive coach, to help them return to centre, your client might identify that they need trust, patience, and values of growth and responsibility and clarity so that they can be grounding and it can help them return to centre. For a relationship counsellor, your clients might identify connection and honesty, warmth, curiosity, and kindness as an example to help them return to centre from the quadrant that they tend to go in when they're under pressure. So you can work through how those values show up in their goals using exercises from the handbook or as part of your program. So let's bring it back to your structured offer. And this is the key. You're not adding work here, you're clarifying the next step in their plan. So as an example, our health coach. A micro action might be for you to help your client track calories or do meal prep for the week, calmly with a simple, fun exercise routine. Our executive coach example, their small action might be to delegate one task and to tolerate imperfection. Our relationship coach example, the action for the clients there might be to sit with honesty more and be curious during conversations. And the career coach example, their micro action might be to reach out and connect with 3 new contacts on LinkedIn. So this work slots right into your program or the way you work. And most of all, it gets you buy-in from your clients for them to keep doing the work and keep going with you in your program. You can also review your client's progress using the grid. So as your clients get familiar with the grid, they can work out where they are and where they're going. So in a follow-up session with your clients, you can ask, where did you drift this week? And what helped you return to center? And what this does, this builds self-awareness and self-regulation. So this is really powerful stuff for your clients. And eventually they'll say, I noticed I was going into enforcer mode. And when that happens, you've broken through. They're now able to self-diagnose their drift. They're self-reliant and they know what to do. So you can make a big change here. You've helped them build independence, and that's just worth its weight in gold. So here's the strategic benefit for you as a practitioner. You see, the grid helps you keep clients engaged in your programs. It keeps them coming to sessions. They keep making progress, and they have easy to use tools right at their fingertips. They're empowered. There's less shame and less downward spirals. The patterns are recognized early, so it's easy to understand why it works so well with all the different learning styles, because you're tapping into the deep work early, making mindset shifts and building deep transformation without it taking months and months or even years. And it's all values work underneath. This is timeless, foundational stuff for your client's success. From being more consistent to making better decisions, being calm under pressure, to becoming a leader or handling change. Values led all the way. So the grid is a really powerful tool, and it supports you to do the powerful work with your clients beyond the niche you work in. For example, as a health coach, you're now supporting clients to strengthen their identity. As an executive coach, you're shaping clients' behavior and their mindfulness practice in their business. And as a relationship counselor, you're helping address a client's emotional regulation. So in essence, it supports you to do your best work, and people will take notice. Here's the key thing. You don't need to learn everything at once and remember all the details. You just need to start by being able to recognize the pattern and where it lands on the grid. The grid gives you the structure and the language to use. We've got values, clarity, and responsibility intersecting on the grid. And that gives you the direction and movement on the grid, while your niche gives you meaning, purpose, and application. And so that combination of elements is really powerful. And when you're able to integrate the grid and the values work into your work and programs, it becomes this supporting architecture that sits underneath your whole entire program. So if you haven't downloaded the free Alignment Grid introductory guide, go ahead and visit my website and download that. There's a link in the description below. And if you've liked what we've talked about today, I encourage you to check out the whole life values method. There's more details on my website, and how you can get started today with the practitioner kit. Hope that's been a big help, and I'll see you in the next video.